Okay. Claire, should we wait another minute for Wayne?
I don't know. It doesn't look like we've got any decision items where he'd need to have input. I think out of respect for everybody's time, and I actually do have another meeting following this one, I'd just as soon get started.
Okay, I'm going to start the recording.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we're live and recorded.
Can I join in here, Kristen?
You may.
A little bit like. You go ahead and sit there.
Okay.
I can be the disembodied voice on the other side.
Okay, I have Wayne here with me.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Wayne.
Good morning.
We have everybody here. We're live and we're recording.
Good. Just have some interesting connections now.
So are we ready to go, or are we still waiting on somebody or something?
I think we're ready. I think we can go ahead.
Can hear you. Frank, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, then Mr. Chair, why don't you call us to order?
all right, let the meeting of the Fair Board come to order on this Thursday, November 12th.
Uh-huh.
It looks like all board members are present. And do you have any comments about the minutes? I don't think I've seen any minutes.
They were reviewed back in August, and I have an email verification on your review.
Oh, I see, this is 3 months ago. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't met the last 3 months.
got it. All right, well then the minutes will stand approved as distributed. Let's go on to OSU Extension. Todd.
Good morning, all. Good to see your faces after a long hiatus. I trust everyone's doing well in the face of COVID and trying now to get back to business as usual. The university is slowly reopening, as I'm sure many of you know. We were cleared to begin some limited face-to-face club programming as the county entered phase 2, and so we have a few clubs that are up and operating, and more that are coming on board weekly. And things are looking better for us. It is limited capacity. We're limited to just 10 people in our face-to-face groups at this point. We have some pretty drastic decontamination methods and contact tracing that we have to do. But all in all, it's just nice to be back in contact with the youth and back to doing the good business that we do. It does bring up a need for space again. As you guys know, the fairgrounds has been pretty much allocated to COVID response, which is understandable. but we're at the point now of needing archery space. We're about to have an archery club form. The ping pong club has been chomping at the bit for 2 months to get up and running, and they've done that in conjunction with the farmers market on the east side of the main hall in the past. And of course, the Harney building for some of our other educational programs. So I know that there are a bunch of logistics that need to be worked out there, and I've been communicating with Wayne, trying to get through those. I hope, I guess this is just my plea to hopefully we can get that back in order to where we've got access. Keys are another issue because I think the whole fairgrounds was rekeyed for the COVID response, so we don't even have very good access at this point. But that need is coming or is here, and I hope we can figure out how to make that happen in short order. Other than that, I don't have much of an update, just because we've been fairly slow for the last number of months as well. I will say that Heather and I are actively planning for a face-to-face county fair. We fully recognize that may not happen, or we may have to modify our plan to meet the COVID standard of the day. We don't know what that will be, but we are planning as if we'll be able to do that face-to-face in some sort of a capacity. It may be a limited capacity where we have to have fewer people together in the main exhibit hall. We may have to have limited seating for the rodeo, but our plan is to try, COVID permitting, to do that in a face-to-face more traditional way. So stay tuned for more of that, and we'll just keep our ear to the COVID pipeline and make sure that what we're doing complies with the state and the county standard. Happy to field any questions that you may have that this long layoff has brought about, if you have any.
Anyone?
Well, actually, I think I have a question for either Commissioner Hall or Wayne, which is, my understanding is that the Board of Commissioners effectively took control of the grounds as part of the COVID response in the Echo Mountain Fire Complex. Is that still the case? Is the Board of Commissioners technically still holding that authority, or have they returned it to the Fair Board?
I want to ask Wayne to weigh in on
Sure.
that.
And actually, if you'd like, I can segue right into the updates on the Echo Mountain Complex fire and COVID. And just to kind of follow up with what Todd had indicated, yes, we did utilize actually extensive parts of the Commons area in response to both of these crises. Especially the exhibition hall, some of the outer buildings were utilized for either staging of response or recovery activities, or continuing to serve as depots for some of the ongoing efforts that are being made by either county or its partners in response to both of these particular declared emergencies. And so let's talk a little bit about what was done. Actually, and Todd, we haven't met since you and 4-H stood up with the Animal Services District and Lincoln County Animal Shelter to help respond to the Echo Mountain Complex fire. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the efforts that were underway and what was done there.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. As you started talking about the fire, it reminded me, I wanted to say something about that. We have 4-H in the face of the Echo Mountain fire and all the animal evacuations quickly rallied and brought together an informal group, because at the time 4-H was prohibited from any face-to-face contact. So it was really just my volunteers on their own initiative and their families that came together and set up a very, very extensive receiving area for animals that had been evacuated from the north part of the county. All told, they had about 5,000 volunteer hours in setup and then caring for animals and then the teardown, which was helped by the county tremendously to get all those panels torn down and put back away. but they brought in, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I know that we had chickens and rabbits and horses and even some llamas at one point. And it was really, really a blessing to have the availability of that shelter area and all of the equipment and panels and such that we use, plus the donations that just came pouring in from around the county to be utilized for that relief effort. It really came together seamlessly. It was sort of a very rapid response, and I'm very pleased with what the continued partnership between the county and 4-H was able to produce for the community in a very short order. And as I said, there were about 5,000 volunteer hours that went into that effort over a 2-week period. So we're very pleased with that.
And so to build on what Todd was saying, the exhibition hall had already been serving as a response area for COVID in two fashions. One is that we had a lot of excess supplies, especially for food share, donations that were being made for folks who were impacted by COVID, maybe had to leave their homes to quarantine or isolate. And so Food Share had a great deal of supplies. They actually had way more than they could actually handle in their own storage. So we provided them some storage. And then when the fire hit, actually, Food Share ended up we utilized all those foodstuffs that had been gathered there in response to the fire victims that had to evacuate. You know, there was over 13,000 people that had to evacuate. I think that was the total number, but quite a few that came from the North County. And a lot of them were housed here in Newport and needed to be have food, shelter, and medicine. We also we had the Commons as our backup surge capacity during the course of COVID here if we needed something in addition to the hospital. We never had to actually utilize it there, but it was one of the spaces that we planned and designed for utilizing in response to COVID if necessary. And then the exhibition hall served as the main donation center, the receiving center for all the donations that came in related to the fire. And Focus actually managed that donation center for the emergency services and for the responders here. And then we set up and had actually it was a space in the Lincoln outlet stores, the factory outlet stores in Lincoln City that was donated by the owners there. A couple of spaces that became our distribution centers in North County. And so they were utilizing the space here to receive all the materials, document those, sort them out, get them together, and then distributing them at North County to both the factory outlet that served as our initial donation center for getting things out to folks who were subject to the fire, and then to some other places like the Salmon River Grange and others that utilized the donations for folks that were impacted. And so where we stand right now, with both of those uses is there's still some of that space in the exhibition hall that's being utilized. We're working on a plan to actually get out the rest of the usable donated materials. One of the biggest issues we've got, unfortunately, is that people in the goodness of their hearts, they give all kinds of things, but some of that stuff is frankly just not usable that you get there. So you end up with a lot of stuff that has to actually be dealt with otherwise. And unfortunately, that can include taking some of that to the landfill. And so they're working on a plan to actually distribute the rest of those materials out of there. I had hoped, but I could announce at today's meeting that's been accomplished and that part of the exhibition hall is open again. I understand it's not quite done yet, but we are working on a plan, a secondary plan. And that is that Jack Whaley here has a new trailer, a new cargo trailer, fairly large cargo trailer. And as we were examining the stuff in the area in there, we think we might be able to just move it out of the exhibition hall into the trailer while we make the final disposition of those materials, either by delivering some that are usable to other locations or just taking at the very end what's left to either recycle or to the landfill. So I don't have an update on when we're going to do that, but we're going to try and do that fairly quickly. Now, I think for our purposes, I want you to note, and Todd, this is our first opportunity to talk about this side of it. I'm actually very heavily involved, deeply involved on the administrative side of responding and recovering from the fire and COVID to deal with the available federal funding. either through what's known as the CARES Act to deal with some of the COVID activities. And then we have a specific public assistance request in on the Echo Mountain Complex fire. I am working to get information with Amy, and Todd, this is where I need you to get together all the volunteer hours that were related to these particular events, which can match what's required of the county, the 25% match in order to get qualified FEMA or CARES Act money. CARES Act doesn't require the match, but FEMA does. And I'm also looking then at what the fair market rental value would be of the buildings and space that was utilized during this, because it may be funding that we can actually recoup as part of the process. So that's part of what we're doing right now. If that money comes back in, that goes into the fair fund and to the fair facilities fund. So those would be funds that actually would come back to offset some of the potential lost revenue from not being able to utilize those facilities, but also because they were used for another purpose related to those two declared emergencies. So any questions on that?
No,
Okay, hearing none, let me move into the next one. That kind of ties into, because especially through, I know Jim had some contacts with folks from the farmers market, and so has Amy. And we've been trying to work and see, how can we get not only Todd and 4-Hers back inside there, but other users of the facilities back into those facilities in accordance with, of course, the current COVID rules and regulations. That's first and foremost what we've got to do. And what the farmers market, we were kind of hoping to gear this up so that we could make it available to them around that weekend after Thanksgiving, because that's traditionally a good part of what they do for the winter market and want to do things. But they've taken a different tact at this point, and they have actually gotten permission from the city of Newport, and will be continuing the outdoor market on that east parking lot, the southern parking lot across from City Hall, through the end of December, weather permitting, obviously. And there may be weather permitting in that case is they're going to go no matter what. They're going to have some kind of use out there unless it's an absolute mess out there in terms of a storm. So they want to actually do that because they have been looking at the regulations around having an indoor market and are very concerned that it really is, the regulations won't get them the kinds of crowds that in an indoor setting that they can see on an outdoor setting. And so they're not ready to do all the cleaning and all the protocols at this point, to do an indoor market. So, and this is unofficial. I still haven't had an opportunity to talk to Kelly yet to make sure this is where they're going. But there was actually an article in Mass Wednesday's newspaper about this is their specific plan going forward. Now, after the first of the year, do they want to come back in an indoor market? We don't know. We're really not sure if that's the case. But again, we're trying to obviously it's a priority for utilization of spaces that we've got if we need to respond to emergencies. That's always been a priority. But I think as things wind down a little bit, as we move into the recovery elements of the fire, it'll always be in the background for COVID, but it's not needed immediately for any COVID uses right now. We'd like to get it back up so we can do the things and utilize the facilities in the way that Todd was describing here. And, most of the focus on the buildings has been on the exhibition building. There are other buildings available because now Focus, the Friends of Lincoln County Animals, is out of the space that is the old floral building. So we do have some other spaces, Todd, that we can potentially utilize for some of your activities there. I do want to say this, we have some new technology, some new services. Jack Whaley and his crew have been working hard to stay up on the latest and greatest for some of the cleaning efforts for especially with COVID for after events occur, small events occur. And so we'll actually make some of those things available, do some initial cleaning of any space before we actually utilize it there to make sure that it's safe and secure for any of the activities that you authorize in those particular spaces. So any questions on that?
Hi, Wayne, it's Amy. I will add that we do have Salvation Army and the Red Cross in the main exhibit hall as well.
Right.
So we have everyone sectioned out. Salvation Army has food boxes that they're storing in there. And then Red Cross has cots and blankets that they're storing. Red Cross anticipates being out after the first of the year.
Okay, that's,
And we can always move them to a smaller area if Market does decide to start back up again.
have you heard anything more from either Jenny or Focus in terms of what their schedule is for getting out of there?
You know, I have not. Last time I had heard it was going to be a couple weeks ago they were out, but then there was just kind of some, issues getting enough people together. I know Jack and his crew have really helped load out a lot of that stuff. A lot of the things that they couldn't distribute as far as personal items and sanitary items and stuff, the Salvation Army went ahead and took and they started distributing. So everybody's kind of working together to try to get everything out of there. And then our plan, I think this week is we're going to order a drop box from Thompson's and go ahead and dispose of things that aren't needed anywhere else.
Great. And assuming, Amy, that we had that done there, and with what's left with Salvation Army and Red Cross, do you think we can make the main part of the exhibition hall available for Todd for the things that he was discussing, ping pong and some of those things?
I do. So my plan was if anybody wanted to use that main area, is that we would get Red Cross and Salvation Army moved into the east hall, and then just have them store in there until they're finished. We could move them to another building too if needed, but the main exhibit hall was ideal with the roll-up garage door to bring in the pallets of food kits.
Yeah.
So that is why we did utilize that building.
Okay, anything else that you want to add, Amy?
I just got some stuff with regards to the fog and the work that they've been doing out there, if anyone wants any of that information. So Stantec has submitted the phase 1 ESA to Margaret Olson at the EPA, and they are ready to start conducting the hazardous building materials analysis, and I've been working with them to try to get that on the schedule. So right now we're just waiting to hear back from Margaret that gives us the thumbs up to go ahead and start this next portion, which will have to be done before any demolition is done.
Yeah, and just a reminder, everybody, this is a grant that the county participated in related to brownfields. And we identified the Fairgrounds Commons as one of the sites that has some potential properties for redevelopment, with knowing that we're going to be removing a number of those buildings, and you'd have to get this kind of assessment done anyway prior to doing that. So, but we actually got grant funding. We're utilizing this, so we're getting this as part of the grant funding done, and that's just a step towards moving forward at such time as move forward for the redevelopment of the commons. So this is great news to see that that part of it is moving forward.
Very good. County staff update continued.
I think that was all I had for today.
Amy, the one question I had, because I keep getting this hit at me, I was going to talk to you about it, is where are we with the key situation? And do we need to do some things to kind of re-key? I know it's a mess. I know it's a mess.
So yeah, the key situation is pretty well out of control. Jack is aware of this. When I spoke with him last, his plan was that we're going to wait until we have everybody out of there. That means, the focus group that's doing the fire donation, the Red Cross and Salvation Army. Once everyone is out, then we're going to do a complete rekey of every gate, every building, and then get that back under control, because it did. We honestly don't know who has.
Yeah. And in the interim, can you help Todd in terms of his groups? To the extent they're getting access in there, we can try and figure something out on an interim basis.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Todd, you guys are good with your lock on your gate, right? As far as your code, it's just access to your building.
Well, the code is really just for the equestrian riding people. I don't give that code to 4-H people. We've always maintained a key, given that key to the 4-H people, and demanded that key back when we're done. I don't necessarily want all 4-H people to have access to the code and be able to come and go as they want.
Okay.
Yeah, so that code is just for equestrian riding pass people.
Okay, I don't think that's a problem. I'll talk to Jack, and I think maybe with the best, because it sounds like with archery and everything, you're going to be utilizing some other buildings. So I think maybe the best way to go would be right now is to kind of do our final rekey just on the buildings that are on the east side of the grounds. So 4-H is ready to go, and then we will focus on the main exhibit hall once everyone's out.
The only wrench that I see in that, Amy, would be that ping pong has used the main exhibit hall, and certainly it doesn't matter to them whether they're using the main space or the east space. I think they've been using the east side more often than not, but they are chomping at the bit and ready to go as soon as that's available. Just to put that bug in your ear.
Well, I don't see any reason why we cannot give the ping pong people the same key as everyone else in the main hall has for right now. So at least they can access the space and they can utilize their area, and then they'll just be aware that later on we'll be doing some stuff and getting them a new key.
Could I ask a question? Excuse me, could I ask a question?
Go for it.
Todd, you mentioned something earlier about needing to find space for the archery club. Are none of the current fairgrounds buildings suitable for them?
No, they traditionally use the livestock barn, but again, all of that has been rekeyed and none of that's been available. So Amy's plan to make everything on the east available would suffice to get them back up and running. That absolutely works.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anything else?
Can I take Wayne back to the assessment of the site?
Yes.
When are you expecting to receive the report on the final report from the consultant on that?
I would hope not too long after the first of the year.
So we have the phase 1 ESA, Jim. We have that already, and I can forward that to you guys in an email. It's just this next portion that they're going to be getting started on.
Right.
Okay, they've done phase 1
Yes,
and you have that complete, right?
we do. Yes, and that's been submitted to the EPA.
Okay, yeah, if you wouldn't mind emailing me a copy of that, and then of course I'd like to see the next report when it comes in after the first as well.
Yeah, the long and short of the phase 1 ESA is what we knew. There's asbestos and there's lead paint.
Yeah.
But what's good news is there wasn't anything incredibly alarming. It's kind of what we already knew.
Yeah, we knew that those two, in particular, that those two things would be found in various areas.
Right.
No surprise there. I would just, I'm assuming that in the phase 1 report, they kind of identified specifically where they found these things, and then I'm more interested in just kind of seeing where they specifically found them. The fact that they found them doesn't surprise me in the least.
Yep, I will get that report forwarded to all of you.
Anything else from the county?
I think that's it for now.
How about replacing Jim and Frank?
That's still.
I resigned 2 years ago, Frank, this month. You know that, right?
Maybe that we should put fire to Wayne's toes and make sure that every agenda from now on has an item E, status.
Didn't I submit my resignation in November of 2018?
Right, I couldn't resist pulling his leg.
That's okay. I understand. I appreciate your continued service during all these various things that are going on here. I appreciate it. But yes, we need to move forward with that, with many things.
All right, if there's no further business, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Happy holidays coming up.
All right, take care.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Thanks all. Have a great day.
I showered just special for you guys this morning too, Wayne.
You can tell he's retired. That's good.